It's Debatable with Mark Gray here on MLBBro.com.
It's Debatable, back and better than ever, where we debate and deliberate all things Black baseball related. Our man from Seattle is Manny Brown, who checks in once again with us as we continue. And your beloved Mets, with the 10th pick in the Major League Baseball draft, selected Kumar Rocker out of Vanderbilt. My question to start things off with you is, how big was that acquisition by the Mets?
It felt like Christmas in July. Like, that's what it felt like, man. I was just sitting there and I was like, I kind of had a feeling like maybe you just kind of heard the scutterbugs and the rumors, signability, teams having questions or whatever. So you kind of was like, maybe he drops to the Mets. But I kind of wasn't really expecting it to fall that way, right? And then as the draft keeps going, you start seeing the Royals and teams like this just, picking other guys, and you're just like, you finally get to like, I forget which team had 8 or 9 or whatever. Once you get to like, I think you got past a certain team that I was like, oh, this might really happen. So then, of course, we get down to the nitty gritty. Number 10, Mets select Kumar Rocker. Oh my God, bro. Like, it was just, it is like being a kid at a candy store. It's like Christmas in July. All parties win, right? Major League Baseball wins because, of course, you have this once in a generation type talent and pitching prospect in Kumar Rocker. He lands in the biggest market in the sport with the team on the rise in the Mets. I mean, it's just a perfect situation for everybody. It's a perfect situation for the Mets because the Mets are a team that is looking to ascend to that perennial powerhouse, not only in the National League, but just in the sport in general. And now you have a young prize pitching prospect from, the richest talent pool in the sport in Vanderbilt, come into your city, and you can get him to develop for the next year or two, maybe less than that. And then, of course, the Mets, and then, of course, Kumar Rocker wins because, he's looking to be in the best position for his career. And why not be in a position like New York with the biggest media market, all the cameras, everybody talking about you, all the attention. And then, of course, like I said, the sport wins because Major League Baseball, a black pitcher, can't forget about that, a black pitcher in New York City with the Mets. Dwight Gooden, anybody? Just saying.
Well, even before we start breaking out the Doc Gooden references, let's go even deeper, because you look at the overall balance of the rotation right now. You're talking about 3 potential Black American starting pitchers. Yeah. What's the significance of the Mets, a team who, as you mentioned in the past, one of the great pitchers is Dwight Gooden? You got the potential to have 3 Goodens in the same rotation when all is said and done.
It's extremely significant. I mean, I think the last time we talked about it with Seattle and what they're building potentially in their franchise. But look at the Mets. I mean, you got Taijuan Walker. It's crazy to think that Taijuan Walker has been around forever, but he's still just 28 years old. So you could potentially see Taijuan Walker for the next 5 to 7 years, potentially, if he stays healthy. Then, of course, you add Kumar Rock into that. And obviously we still got Stroman. So I think it's just huge, man. I mean, anytime that you see 3 brothers in the same rotation, it's just huge. I can't understate this, man. It's so important, man. Representation is key. And obviously part of the reason why we're doing this, they're doing this site, we're doing what we do here is just to bring attention to people that look like us, and fans need people that look like us to represent them. And to have the Mets, again, in the biggest media market in the world, in the biggest city in the world, as far as baseball goes, to have 3 Black pitchers in your rotation. I mean, you can't script, there's not a Hollywood writer in the world that can script that better.
And, this may lead to some shoes now. I mean, let's be clear for a second. We talked about the last time how Ken Griffey Jr.'s swag was as much about his game as it was about the shoes. Marcus Stroman has his shoe line.
Right.
I just look at Rocker from an endorsement standpoint. Yeah. And and he's a second generation professional, although his dad was a pro in football. It's kind of like the exact opposite of Patrick Mahomes in the NFL, whose dad pitched for the Yankees. And he's now arguably the best quarterback in the game. You seeing any similarities
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got the second generation aspect of it. You got the African American Indian side of it when you come to the ethnic breakdown. So you kind of cover multiple barriers there. I mean, again, in New York City, where it's a melting pot, you have swaths of obviously Black folks. You have Indians, Hispanic. I mean, you just cover all the barriers, man. Listen, we talked about Marcus, we talked about Taiwan, man, but I think Kumar Rocker is going to move the needle beyond what those guys can do, man. I mean, this guy, you just look at him. He's got the presence, the swagger, the aura. He's big. He just kind of reminds you. I know some folks have already thrown that out there of a Bob Gibson type, just that bulldog mentality. Like, I'm just gonna go out there and annihilate you. And that more than anything else, that more than swagger, that more than how many tweets and follows and wild stuff you could post out there. But going out there, having that bulldog mentality, and then once again, winning. That's the important thing about all this. We could talk about Kumar Rocker, potential, all that. But if he goes out there and from day one, he goes out there and he wins, the sky's the limit for this dude, man, from an endorsement standpoint.
Now, on field, I remember when David Price came up, a lefty from Vanderbilt.
Yep.
A lot of us who were baseball people understood how good he was, and he was able to be a relief pitcher for a Tampa Bay D-Rays team that got to the World Series.
Yep.
The question is, how long do you think it takes for him to get to the show?
I think this season would be a little bit of a rush just because you don't know what that indoctrination period is from obviously getting drafted, going through the whole pre-draft selection process, and then, okay, go help the Mets win a division. That might be a little too premature, but I don't think it's premature to think, next season, maybe in July, August, the Mets have a need in the rotation. Maybe calling up a Kumar Rocker if he's ready. Of course, all this is predicated on if the guy's ready mentally and physically. I know we can sit here and we can pontificate that SEC baseball is akin to, high AA or whatever. But at the end of the day, until you got a guy out there pitching professionally against professional hitters, I don't care where you at, Timbuktu, America, somewhere, those are still professionals out there. And until we get that guy out there and he's throwing to live batters in the professional league, we'll know. But if he stays healthy and he's ready mentally, physically, I don't think it's out of the question to think that this guy can come up next season and be a factor. Maybe not. I'm not saying, second starter in the rotation behind DeGrom, but at the very least be a guy that comes up in the second half of the season and is a factor.
Where does he have his greatest impact in your opinion? Early on, is it out of the bullpen and then move him into the starting rotation, or do you just groom him to be a guy that's, 300 innings every season kind of player right now, and maybe forsake this year for future success down the road? Because that division is tough. It's not going anywhere.
It's crazy. It's just going to depend on the need, right? It's going to be, like I said, I'm kind of ruling this year out just because I think it'll be a little too soon, too premature to throw him out there and say, yo, go out there and help us win the division. But I think next year, I think it depends on the need. I think if you're sitting here and the Mets are 2 games back and it's July 30th and the Mets need a starter, and you got Kumar Rocker out there dealing down in AA or AAA or wherever the hell he's at, like, why not? You know what I'm saying? Kumar Rocker is that high end potential type of prospect that could come up and just be lights out for, to end the season. So I think that obviously applies. I think if the Mets don't maybe not have a need in the rotation, but have a need in the bullpen, why not bring this guy up in September and say, yo, a la K-Rod, a la some other notable David Price, obviously, just be like, yo, next year you're going to be a starter, but for this year, we just need you to be that max effort guy in the 9th or 8th or 7th, that fireman role, and just come and get big outs. And with his stuff, it's a possibility. So I think it just depends on the need for the team. Kumar Rocker, please, baseball gods, please keep this kid healthy.
Please
keep this kid healthy.
If you're an MLB bro, you can't wait to see him touch the rubber for sure.
Facts.
That is Manny Brown. This has been Debatable. Remember, as always, you leave that weak stuff out here over the plate, we're going to take you deep. Deuces.
MLBBro.com, covering black and brown major leaguers.